Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be continuing with Oswald and AEBALCONY. And when we get done with AEBALCONY, we will move into a couple other things. Some of the predecessors to AEBALCONY. So, let us begin. Quarterly report for Project AEBALCONY Lithuanian Desk. Objectives. The objectives of Project AEBALCONY are to conduct mounted and, in selected cases, piggyback legal traveler operations into Soviet-occupied Lithuania in furtherance of CIA intelligence mission. The purposes of legal traveler operations are to support internal assets, to make assessments and reassessments of potentially vulnerable Balts, to conduct subtle covert activities, and to collect operational intelligence. And it says here, written in to recruit internal assets. 2. Operations and production. SR2 Baltic Lithuania assessed. That's the office that handled this particular operation. SR2 Baltic Lithuania assessed, recruited, trained, briefed, dispatched, and debriefed 4 mounted Redskin agents. AEBALCONYs 7, 8, and 9. And redacted, and 3 piggyback Redskin agents. AEBALCONYs 12, 13, and 14. So if you'll notice in this context, despite having AEBALCONY cryptonym designations, these are all considered Project Redskin agents. So there is this interconnectivity between Redskin and AEBALCONY. And as we'll see, Redskin kind of encompassed a whole bunch of other things similar to AEBALCONY until it was reorganized under the umbrella of AEBALCONY, right? So I don't know if they do this on purpose to confuse people or if this is legitimately how their internal structure for operations worked. But to make an umbrella project part of a new umbrella project is just kind of interesting to me. Although the debriefings have not yet been completed, it is felt that SR2 Baltic Lithuania has amply met these objectives outlined in paragraph 1, since A, 8 dead drop sites were selected for future use to support internal assets in Soviet-occupied Lithuania. B, 5 of the Redskin agents reported on Soviet military installations, and some of these installations are missile sites. C, identifying data on Soviet Lithuanian citizens who are considered vulnerable have been submitted and they may become targets for future recruitment. D, 2 Redskin agents conducted a somewhat successful CA campaign, that's covert action campaign, by informing some of the Soviet Lithuanian citizens of the Soviet Union's resumption of nuclear testing and by passing out colored postcards of President Kennedy and of the larger cities of the United States. The agents have reported on defense plants in Vilnius and activity in the railroad marshalling yards. And F, they have reported numerous times of operational intelligence. So it seems like they're trying to make a much bigger deal out of the activities of the current AEBALCONY operatives in order to acquire funding for the next fiscal year, which was, July 1st, 61 to June 30th of 62. Finance. Here we go back into the finances of AEBALCONY. AEBALCONY 7, it cost CIA $1,500 to send AEBALCONY 7 on a Redskin mission to Soviet-occupied Lithuania. AEBALCONYs 8 and 9, it cost the CIA $3,000 to send AEBALCONYs 8 and 9 on a Redskin mission to Soviet-occupied Lithuania. And then AEBALCONYs 12, 13, and 14 were piggyback operations, and the only cost to CIA was for case officer travel during assessment, recruitment, briefing, and debriefing. So piggyback operations are not operations put on directly by the CIA, but that are piggybacked onto someone else's already existing legal travel. That makes sense? D, redacted. AEBALCONY funds $1,000 were expended to send blank to Soviet-occupied Lithuania for 16 days. Miscellaneous. Number 4, AEBALCONY 10 was recruited, trained, briefed, but was not dispatched because of the tense international situation and an incident which happened during a training exercise and which was thought at the time to have security implications. 5. Security. No incidents involving security were reported other than the item mentioned in paragraph 4 above. Future plans. Number 6. It is planned to contact and assess approximately 4 individuals for Redskin missions into Soviet-occupied Lithuania in the year of 1962. All right, so continuing. Quarterly report for Project AEBALCONY Latvian desk. Objectives. 1. Redskin travel. One mounted domestic legal traveler operation into the Latvian SSR, that's Latvian Soviet Socialist Republic, was successfully accomplished through the assistance of MOG, which conducted the final training, dispatch, and debriefing of AEBALCONY 5 and AEBALCONY 11, 2 naturalized Latvian Americans, meaning 2 American citizens who were born in Latvia. 2 PI reports have been disseminated. Evaluation of this information has not been received as yet. AEBALCONY 5 and her husband, AEBALCONY 11, are now settled in California, where they will act as Redskin spotters. No security or control problems are foreseen. BAE Kilo. A naturalized Latvian-American Redskin candidate was assessed in August and rejected as unsuitable by reason of family background for undertaking a mission to load a dead drop in Latvia. C. A U.S. citizen of Latvian origin was assessed favorably as a Redskin candidate, but no satisfactory explanation for his absence from his place of employment could be devised for the current travel season. So, interesting, because that means that as of, this would be, let's say, summer 61, they were still planning on sending more of these, like, they're not false defectors, right? They're false tourists, right? Legal operations. False defection, I don't think, would fall under the category of legal operations, as was outlined in the purpose of AEBALCONY. A U.S. citizen of Latvian origin, was contacted and assessed unfavorably for a Redskin mission due to load a dead drop in Latvian SSR by reason of subject's intemperate use of alcohol. A naturalized Latvian American citizen living in Florida, who was rejected on medical grounds in 1960 for a Redskin mission, recently completed a month's trip to Latvia. Subject recently notified the Latvian desk and will be debriefed in the near future. 2. Recruitment in place. AE Flag has assisted in enrolling a Soviet-Russian churchman in a divinity school in Canada. Interesting. When I start to hear about divinity schools, I start to think of David Ferry, remember? When I think of Canada, I think of Montreal. I think of Louis Bloomfield and CMC and all the connections to the CIA. Ultimately, AE Flag will try to bring this individual to the United States for an attempted recruitment in place by SR2 Baltic assets. The control and security of this potential operation utilizing AE Flag presents no serious problem at this time. The special status of Canada as regards to the SR2 Baltic operations is being fully considered. 3. Positive intelligence. Observations by AE Flag, a naturalized Latvian-American Redskin traveler during May to June 1961, have been disseminated in a 13-page report. Evaluation of this information has not been received. Debriefing for AE Flag has not been completed. OI, operational intelligence, concerning Soviet realities will be further disseminated. 4. CA activity. It's covert action. Successful covert action activity was registered by AE Flag, who visited Canada to talk with 3 Soviet churchmen. The 2 senior members were contacted to elicit the tenor of feeling in Moscow regarding the world crisis over Berlin, to spread ideas designed to further U.S. aims in making clear to the Soviet people that the U.S. can be pushed only so far. Man, this just rings to me of like the old OSS documents and the old OSS tactics that they would do in order to get intelligence and also to sow dissent in Germany. Fascinating stuff. The parallels to me are really what's fascinating. B. AE Flag, a naturalized Latvian American, was granted a CSA for domestic use to develop CA activity and to act as a Redskin spotter within the youth organization that he heads. So the CIA, again, targeting children. 5 comments. This quarter has been one of the most productive for the calendar year. All right, so let's move on to AE Balcony file number 6. And all this seems to be is a one-page with a few scribbled notes from SRC1/P/DL, disseminated to SR2 and SR6/S. Remember, all of these SR organizations are organizations within the CIA, or they're not really organizations, I guess you'd call them like stations or outfits within the CIA that were directly connected to all the AE programs that were involved in getting spies into the Soviet Union. And the false defector program that Oswald was in was obviously one of these stages of these AE programs. But let's read this short little article and see what the relevance here could be. Soviet tourist unit denies ban on cars. Moscow, March 7th. Reuters. A spokesman for the Soviet tourist organization Intourist, branded today as completely untrue, reports that the Soviet Union's borders would be closed to Westerners traveling in cars. The spokesman said tourists can visit the Soviet Union as they have always done, by car, ship, or plane. We do suggest, however, that they make advanced bookings as we have certain accommodation difficulties. What does that tell me? That tells me that that's an article cut from an observation based on rumors that were being planted by one of these organizations. London, March 7th, Reuters. A Soviet spokesman at Intourist offices in Helsinki, Finland. Oh, what happened in Helsinki, Finland? Oswald got his visa to Moscow. Fast-tracked, by the way, by the CIA fucking station in Helsinki. So, a Soviet spokesman at Intourist offices in Helsinki, Finland today said that all Soviet borders were closed to Western car tourists and emphasized that the closure did not apply to the Soviet-Finnish border. He did not give any reason for the ban. Last year, 3772 cars crossed the Soviet-Finnish border. Britain's Royal Automobile Club said that all individual car travel by foreign tourists has been banned in the Soviet Union by bulk bookings by coach parties were still being... But bulk bookings, say that 10 times fast, by coach parties were still being accepted. Gotcha. So, yes, this is just an example of them reflecting on their own propaganda. It's hilarious. AE Balcony file 0007. Transmittal slip. FYI, 2 papers on the 1962 AE Balcony program. So this stuff wasn't declassified until 2007 under the War Crimes Disclosure Act. Interesting. Latvian Redskin Program 1962. The Latvian Redskin Program for 62 emerges in a somewhat unclear form, which might be characterized by the expression, quote, "Where do we go from here?" Certain premises are seemingly in order before envisioning any program. From the gist of official dispatches and think pieces by members of SR components, it is concluded that the trend is toward more sophisticated, long-term, and highly selective type of Redskin operations, with the continuing objective of eventual recruitment of internal assets and the selectivity envisioned at redacted. Follows that the Redskin effort must be directed towards quality rather than quantity in uncovering would-be travelers. Let me see. It says, I believe what this is inserting here is among the Latin emigration in the West, meaning they could be possibly utilized for Redskin activities. For example, the continuing priorities of atomic energy and guided missile information, not to be confused with physical locations of installations, require a high professional caliber of Redskinners who, through careful supervision, might be able to establish rapport or access to Soviet Latvian men of science and technology working in these fields. Instead of firing canister at the target and achieving splattering effect, we must now use ordnance whose Built-in ballistic properties ensure accurate delivery and reasonably high assurance of effective results. However, to ensure meaningful results, there must first of all be a good system of target acquisition. Herein lies the crux of the Redskin endeavor for the future. As an initial step of the Latvian desk will endeavor to pinpoint the Soviet Latvian men of science and other professional backgrounds who might in any way have some relation to our priority requirements, not excluding, of course, individuals who might possess knowledge required in other lesser priority fields. One might ask properly, what are the ballistic requirements, having outlined the parameters of the Soviet Latvian target area, i.e. the names, positions, locations, and possible avenues of access. The Latvian desk will direct its efforts to line up similarly trained persons among the Latvian community in the West to see what, if any, feasible correspondence, friendships, or family ties might attach to the Soviet Latvians inside. Once any feasible contact link has been uncovered, assuming that the Latvian candidate in the West is willing to exploit it, the desk will then try to nurture the contact on a long-range basis through letters, books, personal contacts under suitable pretexts, as conferences in the free world or inside the USSR. Following the experience gained through the AE Flag and AE Alter 1 operation, a long-term file will be compiled to serve as the basis for a possible eventual recruitment. Concurrent with the build-up, looking forward to the ultimate objective of internal recruitment, covert activities play from practically the inception of any contact with the Soviet target will be undertaken with whatever ancillary effects that can be achieved. See, I love this stuff because this gives the most detailed, intimate look into the mind of these agents and what they were doing and what they were hoping to achieve. And hopefully you can tell in hindsight, with 60 fucking years of knowledge of history between these events and now, that this was all a big fucking circle jerk. Really, they achieved nothing. They fucking achieved nothing. Like, it seems like a lot of these spy activities were just to see if they could pull off these spy activities with extremely fucking little in actual, workable intelligence developed from it. God damn. We have a government run on paranoia. It's unfucking believable. How to proceed in this undertaking is not entirely clear at this time. At the outset, we are canceling POAs and retiring all files of potential Redskinners who do not meet the new criteria of the professional caliber we envision. Admittedly, some of the retired persons might be suitable for dead drops or activity, but in the absence of any present need for same, the matter is academic at this point. From a review of our remaining POAs, we have called out the few qualified professional persons who might be able to exploit contacts with some of their opposite numbers inside Latvia and the USSR. A review of professional leads to Soviet Latvians received from a variety of sources, contacts, reports, agent assets, biographic register, and compendiums on Soviet men of science will be carried out. Concurrent with this related activity, a similar review will be made of the Latvian professional community in the West. Leads will be gathered and utilized domestically or sent to the responsible field stations as the situation dictates. For the foreseeable future, there will be a paucity. What is that? What the fuck word is that? A paucity of actual Redskin activity, and possibly a growing impatience at some echelons with the absence of glowing reports and sizable statistics, allaying the endemic American trait of wanting results now. It is a consideration opinion of this desk case officers and hopefully shared by their colleagues in the field that a refined long-haul approach directed towards the Soviet Latvian targets will pay dividends. Okay, so what they're fucking saying here is that this program has been a failure and we need to refine how we pick these candidates, possibly using more professional candidates, finer and fewer candidates is what they're saying, because basically everything the CIA does is a goddamn failure, right? So that's exactly what happened here. This program has been a failure, so they're trying to refine the program for 1962, which is long after fucking Oswald's been there. The fiscal year of 62 would go from July 1st of 62 to June 30th of 63, and you have to think that the program ultimately ends up coming to an end, not being renewed after 1962, so there is no AEBALCONY program in 1963. facility, and the program ends at the end of June 1963. When does Oswald 1962. When does Oswald come back from the Soviet Union? Immediately after the closure of this program. Coincidence? I don't fucking think so. No predictions can be made at this time as to when the first Redskin mission can be mounted against Soviet Latvian target on the inside. We do know that closer cooperation between Kubark divisions is necessary if our goal is to be achieved. Information on the arrival of Soviet Latvian visitors and or students in the USA must be fed to the desk to ensure lead time to exploit possible contact, if any, with selected visitors. Moreover, the possibility of grafting assets onto cultural exchange groups going to the Soviet Union must be exercised to the fullest. The Pollyanna attitude of state... What? The Pollyanna attitude of state versus the chisism of the... I don't know a fucking word. Man, they spoke so weird in the 60s. Of the Soviets in negotiating cultural exchanges must be resisted, lest a very valuable entree to the USSR is lost entirely. The current Einbahnstrasse of the current agreements nullifies the valuable channel to acquire our targets. Quality and selectivity are the essence of the new look as seen by desk case officers. Lithuanian Redskin plans for the summer of 1962. 1. It will be extremely difficult for the Lithuanian desk to meet the standards outlined by SR3 and EEG dispatches concerning future mounted Redskin activity. Briefly, the aforementioned dispatches stated the following points. Okay, so now we have the Lithuanian desk involved in Redskin operations talking about plans for summer 62, and what they're basically saying is this is going to be fucking hard, so we probably shouldn't do it, right? So let me continue. A, there will be no more massive clandestine tourist type observation missions, so they're winding things down already by the summer of 62. B, operations will be conducted to determine the Soviet intentions concerning the West, and particularly the United States and the Soviet Union's state of readiness to initiate a war. These can be determined by running operations to recruit penetration agents within the overall system, which manages and directs the Soviet-guided missile programs, recruit resident agents in those areas immediately adjacent to missile sites and units. Okay, so let me pause right here. So here it's talking about Lithuanian Redskin plans for the summer of 62. Now, we know that the AEBALCONY program ended June 30th of 62. So, these plans here, the Lithuanian Redskin plans, Redskin being the longer-running, overarching umbrella program that was then reorganized under the AEBALCONY program in, summer of 1960. So, Redskin, despite the fact that AEBALCONY goes away, Redskin obviously continues, or on paper at least, continues. However, when you take into consideration their desire to use more refined assets, we'll call them, meaning more professional, but fewer of them, but higher quality. And then you look here at this Lithuanian Redskin Plans for 62 document, where it starts to talk about the winding down of operations. You start to think that the entire mechanism by which they planned on getting spies into the Soviet Union was changing, right? So a winding down of a program, a refining of the candidates, and here a distinct shift in the operational, or the modus operandi, let's say, moving forward, post-summer 62. So what am I thinking now? Now I'm thinking we have this gap from the time that AEBALCONY ends in 62, June 30th of 62. Oswald immediately comes back in July of 62, right? Between the time that Oswald returns and AEBALCONY ends and Redskin operations continue, especially here in Lithuania. And from what we talked about last time on the last show, that I fucking guarantee 100% of these operations, these false defector and these fucking tourist operations, came to a screeching halt when Kennedy got killed. So then you're looking at a fucking historical gap between July 1st of 1962 and November 22nd of 1963, that they were running these type of operations under a different heading, right? But honestly, what is my purpose in reviewing this at all? Is to make the connection between Oswald and these AEBALCONY and other AE programs, which AEBALCONY, like I've said 100 times already, ended June 30th, 62. Oswald returns to the fucking States immediately after. So let me continue. We have now the desk at the Lithuanian Redskin office talking about the winding down of these operations. And also the scale of these operations going from just being mere informational and observational passing to talking about ballistic missiles and ballistic missile sites. This is this is a right-hand turn from the AEBALCONY program that we've been discussing this whole time, right? Becoming much more serious. This is much more deeper level of espionage than the AEBALCONY program was. So operations will be conducted to determine the Soviet intentions concerning the West, blah, blah, blah. We already said that. Recruit penetration agents within the overall system. So they're broadening the program. Recruit resident agents in those areas immediately adjacent to missile sites and units, right? So that's a much bigger escalation of the program in as far as intent goes. 3, obtain information on technical characteristics, production figures, numbers of missiles available, and the state of research and development of the Soviet. Like, this is a whole different program, right? So Redskin seems to have been this program that is the common thread that stretched for all the years before Oswald's defection and after Oswald's defection. To say that Oswald was a Redskin agent, I'm starting to conclude, is a pretty safe statement. 2, the Lithuanian desk has not yet identified any person who is associated with the overall system which manages and directs the Soviet guided missile program. Available information states that the managerial system is located in the RFSSR and that the system mostly employs Russian-born scientists. That would be Russian Federation Soviet Socialist Republic, I believe. Rather than scientists of Baltic ethnic background. Okay, so now they're wanting to move. So you can tell now the Redskin program is taking on totally new purpose. Wanting to move from the Baltic regions directly into Russia proper. The aforementioned is not stated as an apology for the lack of success in identifying persons associated with Soviet missile programs, but rather to underscore the immensity of the problem, particularly as it concerns the Lithuanian SSR. So basically what the fucking desk is telling Home Office is that this program has basically been a fucking failure, and if you're going to direct any of this kind of activity, you should probably do it at the Soviet Union directly. And when is this? When is this fucking letter being sent? This is as of summer of 62. This is immediately after Oswald returns. So Oswald comes back, his operation obviously a failure, especially since he brings Marina back, who's a motherfucking Russian spy, right? So so this is them rethinking everything. This is them rethinking their defection programs. But I don't see any activity of anything going on post Kennedy's assassination. Especially, they weren't fucking around with anything. They were gonna pull back on everything. So now I've become fascinated with this era of this false defection and other means of getting spies in the Soviet Union between July 1st, 62 and the assassination. That's some pretty interesting stuff. So let me continue. 3, a review of members of the Academy of Sciences of the Lithuanian SSR and of their interests reflects that none of them are or have been engaged in Soviet guided missile activity. However, the Lithuanian desk will continue to study the backgrounds of these scientists in the event that should a Lithuanian scientist have access to the desired information, then attempts will be made to locate and recruit a Western scientist who could have a logical reason for wanting to meet the particular scientist. So this is all theoretical fiction that these guys are putting forth to justify the continued funding of a program that they know has been a failure. Let me see. 4, there exist several possibilities of obtaining some of the desired information through elicitation. One method is to dispatch selected American Lithuanians have relatives who live in restricted areas and who may have access to some of the personnel in the missile units. Okay, yeah. So now they're just getting desperate, looking to hopefully recruit somebody who is potentially a Lithuanian of American, who's now American citizen, who happens to have a family who's personnel in the missile units. Yeah. So we're gonna continue. We're gonna wrap this fucking document up because this is just the Lithuanian desk, like coming up with ideas, trying to justify a paycheck while simultaneously informing the Home Office that this program's been a fucking failure. Hilarious. But of course, since it's not their money, it's our money that they've been spending and that they spent during this time as taxpayers. I guess the joke is on us then. All right, moving on to AE Balcony file number 0008. Heading SR/2. It's another one of these units. I guess this would be a subunit B62-38, dated January 19th, 62. Memorandum from Chief. SR2. Subject, Project AE Balcony Quarterly Progress Report. 1. Attached to the results of Project AE Balcony activity during the period 1 October 31 to December 1961. October 1st to December 31st, 61, so the last quarter of 1961. Oswald's in Minsk at this time. There was no Estonian effort of this nature during the period, and only a minimum amount of the Latvian desk. Lithuanian effort primarily involved the writing of a number of Redskin reports authored by Redacted, and they are now waiting to be typed. It is expected that the reviews of the internal cases will soon be completed, and that more realistic planning will shortly begin on 1962 Redskin operations under Project AE Balcony. So this is in January of 62, when they are still anticipating AE Balcony programs to progress into the next fiscal year, which would begin July 1st of 62. I don't believe that happened. I'm pretty sure that did not happen. I'm pretty sure the program came to an end at the end of June 30th, 62, thus Oswald's return. 2, is worthy of mention that within the past 3 months, at least one Redskin candidate has withdrawn his name from further consideration, and another has reported on an anti-Redskin groundswell which is taking hold within the American academic community. These developments will be closely watched, but it appears that there will be not only a tightening of Kubark internal operating restrictions, but also a certain amount of resistance on the part of potential Redskin agents. So they're commenting on some sort of American academic community which is aware of Redskin operations and against them. So they appear to be discussing tightening down on internal leaks of the program. All right, so continuing on with the quarterly report for Project AE Balcony Lithuanian Desk. Same dates apply. Last quarter of 61. Objectives. The objectives of Project AE Balcony are to conduct mounted and selected piggyback illegal traveler operations in the Soviet-occupied Lithuania in furtherance of CIA intelligence mission. The purpose of the legal traveler operations are to conduct subtle covert action activities to collect positive and operational intelligence, to make assessments and reassessments and potentially vulnerable Balts, to recruit and support internal assets. So this is very much the same, very much what we've been seeing. More discussion of Redskin agents involved in AE Balcony operations. In addition to the production reported in the quarterly report for 1 July to 30 September, Project AE Balcony produced information on several American Lithuanians who may be communists and the techniques used by the Soviets to attempt to gain support from American Lithuanians who are communist sympathizers and who travel to Soviet-occupied Lithuania. Some of this information has already been forwarded to the FBI for their information and action, and additional material will be transmitted shortly. So the AE Balcony program and via their Lithuanian desk was able to generate some activity on Americans of Lithuanian birth who were traveling to Lithuania, who they feel may be communists. Like, this is like the heart of McCarthyism. keeping tabs on Americans, sending it over to the FBI to keep track of them because they might be communists. Like, give me a fucking break. Give me a fucking break. All illegal. All illegal. All right, miscellaneous. A final meeting was held with AE Balcony 3, who will henceforth be handled by SR-10. During the final meeting, AE Balcony 3 reported that American academics are seemingly reluctant to become involved operationally with the CIA. We're talking about the early 60s, of course. Of course. This is when the fucking anti-government, anti-CIA awareness started to percolate. BAE Balcony 7 continues her very effective and anti-Soviet activity by delivering illustrated lectures. So AE Balcony 5 is a woman and AE Balcony 7 is a woman. Could one of these women in the AE Balcony program be Oswald's cousin, Dorothea Moret? She was most certainly involved in some of these Eastern European false traveler operations. When you go and look into her, she was definitely into that stuff. I'm going to have to spend some time on her one day. Not anytime soon, though. But yeah, I bet she was tied up in this stuff also. AE Balcony 8 was instructed on 4 December to attempt to initiate a correspondence with Soviet-Lithuanian mineralogists who appear to be genuinely sympathetic to the West. AE Balcony 14 submitted a photograph of his travel group and additional identifying data on several American Lithuanians suspected of being communist sympathizers. Professor Redacted, a 1962 Redskin candidate, wrote a letter stating that because of his personal considerations, he was no longer interested in traveling to Soviet-occupied Lithuania. 4. Security. There were no security indications in Project AE Balcony during the reporting period. Finances, $201.26 was expended during the reporting period to bring AE Balcony 8 and 9 to Washington, D.C. for debriefing purposes. Future plans, because of the lack of specific policy on domestic Redskin operations for 1962, no concrete Redskin plans have been completed for the coming tourist season. Several candidates, however, have been spotted and contacted. Several other candidates have been spotted and cleared. So they're starting to lose direction coming into 1962 as they finish up the year. So it seems as though in those last 3 months, the hope for AE Balcony to produce anything tangible was starting to go away. In wrapping up this quarterly report for the Latvian desk, Redskin travel, no Redskin operations or CO travel per se took place under the period covered by this report. So despite the program being in place, there was no operations actually going on during this time period. A naturalized Latvian American citizen living in Florida who was rejected on medical grounds in 1960 on a Redskin mission was debriefed on his private trip to Latvia and the USSR in 61. Subject was evasive and disclaimed any awareness of the most elementary features of Soviet security measures in military installations. There is some ground to suspicion subject's recruitment by the Israeli services since he visited Israel shortly before entering the USSR and admits carrying at least one personal message from Israel to Latvia. The FBI will be advised of the situation when all the facts have been assembled. You don't fucking say. You don't fucking say. See, a naturalized Latvian-American citizen living in Detroit, Michigan was recruited as a Redskin spotter and consultant on Latvian matters. 2, recruitment in place. AE Flag successfully invited a Soviet-Russian churchman now studying in Canada to spend Christmas holidays in the United States for the purpose of vulnerability assessments, leading to a possible later recruitment in place by SR-10. SR-10 will take over the operation following a favorable appraisal of the assessment results. Positive intelligence, AE Kilo /2, a PA in the New York area, has submitted disseminable information on Latvian underground installations near Kaldiga obtained from a recent Soviet Latvian immigrant. for security. An unfortunate Latvian language book, Return to Riga, has been published in Sweden, which contains a somewhat fictionalized version of the Redskin experiences of Redacted and Redacted, dispatched in 1960 by MOG. The individuals being interrogated as to their actual roles in providing materials to the author whose book could adversely affect AEBALCONY operations. Interesting stuff. All right, and now we have the final AEBALCONY quarterly report, the last of the AEBALCONY documents in all existence, from what I could tell. Here we go. So, Memorandum for Chief of SR2, dated April 11th, 1962. Subject AEBALCONY Quarterly Report, January to March of 62. The attached reports are forwarded to you for your information. Will be readily apparent that there has been little recent operational activity undertaken within the framework of Project AEBALCONY. Not only has greater attention been paid to case officer training, to domestic contact operations, and to CA projects during the reporting period, but SR2 Baltic is awaiting the dissemination of the operational doctrines contained in the Redskin policy paper. Aha! So here we go. Now we can say with certainty that they have a whole nother project called Redwood, which in some places is connected to Operation Redskin. So that will be on the agenda that I'll get to one of these lifetimes. Current plans, which are indefinite at best, call for the development of 4 types of Redskin operations during the coming season. Those in support of internal cases, those targeted against specific items of positive intelligence of a priority nature, those of a predominantly covert action nature, and whose goal is to contact and assess specific priority individuals residing within the Soviet-occupied Baltic states with a long-term view towards their eventual recruitment. If one of each type of case is mounted, the SR2 Baltic section operational effort under Project AEBALCONY will have been justified for this year. So here we go, a second quarter in a row. So from October 1st through the end of March, there were no Redskin operational activities. So it's all just theoretical on paper. Spending money with nothing happening. No Redskin operations or CO travel took place during the period covered by this report. Development of potentially useful reporting sources on FI matters, that's foreign intelligence, as a prelude to future Redskin travel or contact with Soviet Latvians has been initiated among the Latvian American scientific community. PCSAs and eventual CSAs have been received or are pending on selected persons, e.g. astronomers, chemists, etc., who have the necessary professional competence to warrant their attendance at international gatherings in the USSR or in the West where Soviet Latvians or Russians are expected to attend. A Redskin spotter was recruited in the Seattle area and several others were recontacted. All right, so basically all of these reports coming in for the last 6 months leading up to the end of March of 1962 are reporting that they have a whole lot of, we got a lot of stuff going on, but nothing to report. No operational travel is going on. We don't really have anything more to tell you, but we really want to keep these things going, so we're looking to continue these programs for the next fucking season. Which would have been starting in summer of 62. Future plans, it is intended to recontact these 3 individuals who in 61 expressed a desire to assist the United States by accepting a mission to Soviet-occupied Lithuania. So yeah, now they're getting desperate. They're looking to pick up recruits who had at one time been involved and fell out of the program, obviously. Security, the covert associate mentioned in paragraph 2b, is of interest to the RIS and this, that's Russian Information Services, and this contact and his possible Redskin trip will be closely monitored, right? So the gig is up. They're not really getting anything done. The Soviets were fucking onto them, right? And so that is why by June 30th of 62, this program gets killed. Oswald then returns to the United States. So now we're going to move on to a couple other programs from here. The next one we'll go over. We're going to try to go back in time and see if we can connect any of this stuff to programs that were going on during the actual times that Oswald was in the Soviet Union, right? So he was there from late September of 1959 until July of 1962, right, which would encompass basically all these Redskin programs that they have going on. So this program here, this is dated September 4th, 1959, memorandum for chief of SR3, subject aerodynamic, get it, AE, aerodynamic, AE, balcony, slash FI, as for foreign intelligence opportunities in 1959. The specific foreign intelligence opportunities listed below, plus the expansion of aerodynamics FI collection mechanism, could not be exploited for lack of adequate case officer personnel in SR3-PP. So that's SR3 station, substation PP. At present, redacted is the aerodynamic case officer, and redacted, longer, occasionally assists her. There are no case officers overseas. To all intent and purposes, the headquarters of Aerodynamic Project is in New York. 2. Redskin travelers. During 1959 to date, approximately 100 U.S. or Canadian citizens of Ukrainian origin have traveled to the USSR. The overwhelming majority of these have been Canadian citizens. Canada's Redskin program is still in the embryo stage. So Canada, that fucking cuck of a country, was getting in on some of this Redskin activity. The following 4 U.S. citizens were spotted by AE Cassowary II in the hope that CIA could use them. So they have a whole slew of AE programs going on, all connected to Redskin. A. Nicholas Haladun, Hladun, an old Ukrainian emigre and businessman in New Jersey who traveled in June 1959 to Kiev and Lvov, where he visited his relatives. We have about 45 days of lead time on this one. It was known in advance that he would visit his relatives and that he would also have personal contact with the first secretary of the CPSU for Lvov Oblast. While Hladun turned out to be a rather simple old man lacking in security discretion, we would not have been able to handle his training and briefing for lack of case officer time. SR-10 steers clear of American citizens born in the USSR. So that's an important statement here. So let's recap John Armstrong's theory of the 2 Oswalds post-1947, where he's shown documentary evidence showing that there were 2 Oswalds living post-1947, the year the CIA started, by the way, living with 2 different women, both going by the name of Marguerite Oswald, right? He's done an amazing job of tracking all the data surrounding that stuff. Now, the idea that Armstrong has is that one of the 2 Oswalds is not the real Oswald, obviously, because only one can be the real Oswald, that the other was some sort of either Soviet or Eastern European immigrant, fluent speaker of Russian, who as a child, 6, 7, 8 years old, is brought back to the United States, raised in America as a duplicate, right? For the purposes of then later exfiltrating them as a spy into the Soviet Union, which is what happened during Oswald's time in the Soviet Union, right? So the notion that they would use a naturalized American citizen, right? Like a duplicate Oswald from one of these countries, bring him back here, raise him as an American, and then send him back to the Soviet Union because he spoke fluent Russian, right? It makes perfect sense as a CIA operation to me, and the very existence of the AE documents prove that. Prove that they were doing exactly what I'm suspecting Oswald did. Although you're probably not going to see any kind of mention of the specific activities of Oswald in these documents because, of course, they've been purged, right? The only thing that we can ever hope with getting FBI and CIA documents like years and years and decades after the fact is that we can pray that the fucking morons releasing the documents today don't understand the significance of the things that they're releasing, which I can tell you with 100% certainty is the case with a huge chunk of the fucking David Ferry documents and some of the Jack Valenti documents, and Clay Shaw documents, that link him to Borghese and whatnot. So, but I'm getting off track. So let's continue here. William Tarasco, member of the New York Police Force at the United Nations building, traveled to the Ukraine in spring of *59, where he was hosted by high officers of the Soviet Ukrainian uniformed police. Ivan Stakiv, a Ukrainian-born American businessman, traveled to Poland and Soviet Ukraine in August of '59. AE Cassowary II assessed him as talented in the contact operational field. He was a member of the aerodynamic team at LC Outbound. Stefan Olenek, research analyst at the Library of Congress, traveled to Poland and Soviet Ukraine in August of 1959. After participating on the aerodynamic team at LC Outbound, he thought they would just be restricted as they were during the Stalin era. He's now interested in mounting further travelers. Both HL Adun and Tarasco would have been piggyback operations. Stakiv and Olenkiv were encouraged to apply for Soviet visas by AE Cassowary II, and their trips were partly financed by AE Cassowary II. All except Tarasco received a briefing at some low-level requirements from AE Cassowary II. These briefings included some questions from the CIA. Contact operations experience to date in this field demonstrates that of the Soviet Ukrainians traveling abroad, there is a higher percentage who were approachable and presumably recruitable than among great Russians. The aerodynamic team at the Brussels Fair, was considered by Redacted to be the best asset in the contact operational field which we have available. Aside from Brussels and Vienna, the following contact operational opportunities have cropped up in 1959, but could not be supervised or exploited by the CIA in anywhere near the proper manner for lack of case officer time. Okay, so let me just reiterate. We're talking about like summer of 1959, right? They're talking about potential operational agents that they could use to get into Soviet Union or other of these Baltic regions or any part of the USSR. And they have such detailed information on individual American citizens who traveled there, obviously without having contacted them, right? So they're aware of everyone traveling out of the country to the USSR, to Latvia, to Lithuania, Estonia, all these countries, right? Oswald went 6 months, not even 6 months, 4 months after this report is out. And people would actually think that Oswald wasn't part of these programs. It's ultimately fucking ridiculous. Ultimately ridiculous. All right, so let's continue here. When the Bolshoi Ballet was in New York, one of the sympathizers of the AE Cassowaries, on whom we have already have a POA, found that his cousin was one of the principal dancers. He had several meetings with his Soviet cousin, but we had no case officer whom we could send to New York to assist in the supervision of these contacts. So you could tell that they're looking to exploit any opportunity to get anybody on any level in the Soviet Union who can supply information. All right, so I think I'm going to skip over a lot of this stuff. This basically goes to show that these programs, AE Cassowary and AE Aerodynamic, were all going on prior to Oswald's defection to the Soviet Union, right? And that's super important because Oswald left in September of 1959, and these Redskin operations and these continued mentions of Redskin operations to do exactly what Oswald did are being talked about for years prior to Oswald actually defecting. But none of these programs here, none of these Redskin operations, well, we don't know that necessarily Redskin, but none of the AEBALCONY operations involved false defection. They were specifically utilizing legal operations, meaning travel or visas for education or whatever, you know. All right, so let me see. Moving on beyond that, we have... let's cover this one first. We're going to go over Project AE Root. AE Root, obviously connected to AE Balcony and all these other things. And I bring this up now because this is dated June 28th, 1957. And it's again stamped July 5th or July 6th, 1957. So here we have a project to the operations, Chief of Operations at DD/P, who we've already mentioned, and subject is Project AE Root, and it's for a renewal. 1. The attached project originating in the SR division provides for the utilization of all practical channels of communication with the Estonian SSR to develop, recruit, establish, and direct legal resident agents to collect operational and positive intelligence information. Project AE Root operations have been redirected from those of a Red Sox nature in favor of Redskin efforts. So here we are going back to 1957, And in this next sentence goes back to 1956, talking about Redskin operations. So we have Redskin operations, again, dating back to 1956 at the latest, stretching all the way through June 30th of 1962, fully encompassing the era that Oswald was in the Soviet Union, completely, again, going along the same lines of Oswald's defection. Getting a spy in the Soviet Union was the name of the game. Let me see. It is presented for your approval of retroactive renewal of the period of 1 November 1956 through 31 March 1958 because of the time necessary to make the Red Sox and Redskin revisions in the project. A 17-month approval is being requested. Authority is requested to obligate redacted from the DD/P/SR division budget, redacted for fiscal year 1957 and redacted for fiscal year 1958, subject to the availability of funds. Let's just do these. Let's just do all this shit, and then we'll retroactively put in for approval. Fucking goddamn, you gotta love the CIA. We don't have any rules for this, so we'll just make them up as we go. The SR Division Memorandum requesting renewal is attached. It summarizes the important factors involved and presents the detailed breakdown of the funds requested for the renewal period. The Foreign Intelligence / OPS notes that the operational effort under Project AE Root will be performed chiefly overseas, particularly in Western Europe, and that no large mechanism will be built up in the United States. And I recommend renewal of Project AE Root as submitted. So this is stretching the AE project, obviously stretching here to Western Europe, but going back before the operations move into Eastern Europe and the Baltic countries. Next page, 21 May 1957, Memorandum for Chief Counterintelligence Staff, AE Root Project Renewal. It is felt that the capture of AE Root Project agents AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 in 1954 does not compromise the going and planned operations under AE Root Project for which renewal is requested. None of the agents retained on the project currently was exposed to AE Root 1 or AE Root 2. All right, we have some amazing intelligence here. Remember, I'm presenting this under the auspices that this is all directly connected to Oswald's defection of the Soviet Union under one of these Redskin projects. And here we have, fucking, I swear to God, the CIA just didn't give a shit about the people who work for it. AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 were obviously caught in by whom, does it say? It is felt that the capture of AE Root Project agents AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 in 1954 does not compromise the going and planned operations under the AE Root Project for which a renewal is requested. None of the agents retained on the project currently was exposed to AE Root 1 and AE Root 2. The foreign national agent trainers and instructors connected with AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 at the SR Domestic Operations Base are not involved in current operations of AE Root Project, nor are any of the safe houses or other physical facilities employed in AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 training and dispatch operations. So basically what they're saying is AE Root 1 and AE Root 2 got caught. And you got to think, in 1957, what country on fucking earth would catch one of ours and not just return them? Because we're pretty much friends with everybody, with the exception of a handful of countries, mainly the Soviet Union and a couple countries in Asia. But other than that, like, who the fuck is... I'm trying to think. Saudis at this time? This is all European design, right? So who the fuck else could it have been other than the Soviet Union who caught these guys? Review of Project AE Root SR and Estonian SSR-1 production and evaluation. Remember, we've gone through the evolution of AEBALCONY, and we saw AEBALCONY basically as a failure, they're starting to realize it's a failure in late 1962, or late 1961, stretching into the summer of 1962. They're requesting renewal while simultaneously admitting that no travel had gone on for at least 6 months prior to the request. Now, keeping that in mind, we're going back in time before that. We're going back to 1955, 1956, with their, and we're getting to see the insight into what they anticipated happening. Production and evaluation, 13 positive disseminations were produced by AE Root during 1955, none in 1956, and one in January 1957. Several of these appear to be of more than routine value. One concerned the Soviets' policy in Europe and their desire to shift the spotlight from Europe to the Near or Far East, which was subsequently fulfilled by events. One reported on the withdrawal of Soviet officials from eastern Germany, and one on the Murmansk-Pechenga highway. Others reported fragmentary items of military or political interest concerning the Estonian SSR. Rating of production C requirements. No specific customer requirements were referenced in AE Root's reports. Its objectives are preponderantly operational, and its positive intelligence production negligible since 1955. Guidance in the collection of positive intelligence information exists, however, in targets listed by the IPC. Recommendation: renewal is recommended. So, AE Root, going all the way back to 1955, stretches into 1956, into 1957. Apparently, it then stretches into 1958. AE Root intertangled with Redskin. AE Root then seems to go away, and by 1959, we don't know the name of the program that Oswald was operating in, but it's clear he was a Redskin agent. Now, if we can find evidence that AE Root was expanded through a period or parallel program to AE Root, remember, because the last time we went over these documents, we had a redaction of the name of the program that it said there would be no duplication of efforts. Recall that? So therefore, if there was duplication of efforts, one of these AE programs clearly involved Oswald, and he was clearly an agent, a Redskin agent, right? So Redskin Oswald. It is requested that Project AE Root be renewed for the period of November 1956 through 31 March 1958 retroactively. It is a continuing project on FI operations involving Estonia and Estonian nationals of USSR. The original AE Root project was approved from 13 May 1953 under Basic Plan AE Basin. AE Basin seeming to be an umbrella plan, and has been continued through means of renewals and extensions to 31 October 1956. Pertinent documents are attached. Activities contemplated in the project are subject to expansion and contraction in consonance with the requirements, operational opportunities, and availability of qualified staff and agent personnel. Summary of AE Root accomplishments in the period of 5 April 1955 to November 1, 1956. Recruited and trained 2 Red Sox agents. Recruited 3 Redskin agents. Recruited 3 Redskin agents between April 5th, 55 and November 1st, 1956. When did Oswald join the Marines? Sometime in 1956, if I'm not mistaken. That would seem to be within the time period that they're laying out for AE Root accomplishments. Although, just because they were Redskin agents recruited for AE Root doesn't mean that Oswald was one of them. He could have been a Redskin agent working for another one of these AE projects. And man, you know something, now that I think about it, fucking promise you that we will never know the name of the AE project that he was on unless there's a failed redaction somewhere, which we might find. But basically what needs to happen is, if you're interested in this kind of subject matter, which to me I'm fascinated, but I got a million things I got to fucking research. What I would do here is I would create a kind of a linear subject map with dates and like little bubbles with each one of these AE projects and Redskin projects, and try to detangle this web of activity involving all these AE and Redskin programs. That's going to be necessary, and putting it in chronological order to kind of understand the flow. But then to imagine that Oswald operated outside the confines of one of these fucking CIA programs, give me a fucking break. If you believe that, you're like the dumbest person ever. All right, so C recruited 2 Soviet Estonian residents as informers, detected and followed up 3 RIS, that's Russian Information Services or Russian Intelligence Service agents from Estonian SSR in cooperation with Swedish and British intelligence services. Interrogated and caused confessions of 2 RIS agents from Estonian SSR. Spotted 1 PA candidate for work in cooperation with Finnish IS. Yeah, so they did a whole bunch of shit in 1956. Okay, so these programs, this is what we're looking for in 1956 through 1958, moving forward from 1958. Let me see the dates here. Summary, they went through the roots of a... So the date is April 2nd, 1957, right? So moving forward from there, planned future activities is definitely what we want to know about. Contact AE Route 6 and AE Neon 13. So AE Neon, another program here. Contact AE Route 6 and AE Neon 13 on their next trips west. B. Continue SW correspondence with TI Babel 1. That's usually how it works. The first 2 letters, or depending on the cryptonym, sometimes 3. And then the word, so it's not to Babel, it's TI Babel. And sometimes you'll even see it indicated TI/Babel. Recruit AE Neon 14 for assignment as PA in Finland. D. Press further development of present capabilities for PI and OI and step up spotting, recruiting, briefing, debriefing, and training agents, candidates, and informants. Scrutinize Estonian escapee and refugee cases for possible RIS infiltration and follow up with appropriate action as the situation may require. Establish legal resident agents in Estonian SSR. So, at the time that they're obviously planning Oswald's trip to Moscow in the Soviet Union, they're also planning to establish legal resident agents in Estonia. Changes. The principal changes from the earlier project outline approved 17 June 55 are 2. Abandonment of Red Sox in favor of Redskin effort as the result of reapportionment of responsibilities within SR division, and B, focusing attention on CE as a result of Estonians coming to the West in greater numbers as visitors, Volksdeutsch POWs going to Germany, and RIS agents in the guise of escapees. The current objectives of the project are to establish a number of legal residence agents in Estonian SSR, to utilize all practical channels of communication between Estonian SSR and Western world development to recruit and direct legal residents and agents, to spot, recruit, brief, and when practical, train legal travelers between Estonian SSR and the West, and to extract operational and positive intelligence information from visitors to and from Estonian SSR, one-time Estonian resident Volksdeutsch POWs, clean and unclean escapees from Estonian SSR. All right, so now we're going to get into some operational personnel. The following categories represent the personnel who are being used or are being considered for use on Project AE Route. A covert associate, AE STEM, a principal agent employed by us for this, as well as Project AE Basin. He's a former Estonian colonel who has wide contacts among Estonian emigres. He has had agency training in agent procurement and CE operations. Covert security clearance C17638 was granted on 7 March 1953. Field agents AE Route 5, former Estonian journalist, now resident of West Germany, publishes an emigre newspaper. AE Route 7 is an Estonian resident in West Germany, engaged by us on oral agreement and full-time basis as a spotter for Redskin leads among Estonians in Germany. So they had Redskin people everywhere. Redskin And so Redskin, as it was prior a umbrella program that was reorganized under AEBALCONY in 60. But at the time, Redskin seems to have been I don't know how to describe this. I'll call it a thread program, perhaps, because it kind of mingled between other programs. But all of these AE programs appear to be various types of recruitment within different countries. So you have AE Neon is Estonian resident of Germany. Whereas AE Root, I think, would be a larger program with AE Neon appearing to be under it. Don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to decipher this by going through it. 5, AE Neon 16 is a Volksdeutsch Estonian, now a German citizen employed on West German vessels which visit Soviet ports. He is used for operational intelligence tasks in Soviet Baltic maritime areas. Operational approval C53567 was granted December 14th, 56. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these operational personnel, but one thing I do like here is looking at this, you can see all the various operational divisions and people employed in those different divisions, like AE Root and TI Babel. And you can tell that there were numerous people in each of these programs when it's, a cryptonym and a slash and a number. Oswald's cryptonym, by the way, was RXZIM. RXZIM was Oswald. The following agent personnel carried in Project AE Root in the past have been terminated. So AE Root 1, 2, and 4 were terminated. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for today and summarize by saying that clearly we had, going back through 1955, 1956, we had projects AE Root, AE Basin, and we had Redskin projects that by 1960, Redskin was reorganized under AEBALCONY as an umbrella program, right? And so then AEBALCONY ends up getting shut down in June of 1962. Oswald comes back the following month, right? So Oswald was actually, obviously, unquestionably, he was a Redskin agent. There's just no fucking way around it. There's just no way all this shit was going on in the 1955 to summer 1962 area, encompassing the times Oswald was in the Soviet Union, putting together plans to get people into fucking Estonia and Latvia and all these Eastern Bloc countries, right? Which is Minsk in fucking Belarus was an Eastern Bloc country, part of the Soviet Republic. So yeah, there's no fucking way in hell that Oswald was not a Redskin agent. I think we can pretty much say with 100% certainty he was a Redskin agent. He was 99% associated with an AE program, right? Probably not AEBALCONY, but it was possibly AE Root or AE Basin. But when you go over these documents and you see the internal communications and what was going on in that time period, it's a no fucking brainer to put two and two together and realize that it would have been fundamentally impossible for Oswald to do what he did, connected to all the CIA personnel along the way, right? Like the Albert Schweitzer College, whose head at the time was former CIA, who also went on to run the biggest fucking CIA heroin, cocaine airlines out of South America, right? So it's not a fucking leap to say that Oswald was a Redskin agent, part of an AE program, probably along the lines of AE Basin or AE Root. And that to say otherwise is just kind of fucking naive. And so that's all I have today for you on Oswald and AEBALCONY. And I think I didn't even really try to make a case here. I just went over the fucking documents. And I think the documents, when you look at what the activities were and the time frames, it's pretty clear that Oswald was part of one of these AE programs under Redskin. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow, we're going to go back to talking about David Ferrie. David Ferrie Files Part 6. Thanks, everybody.